And welcome back to the First and Goal podcast. My name is Lewis, and as always, next to me is my co-host Laraib, as we are super excited to get down and break down week 5 of the NFL season. So far in the picks, I won week 1. I felt good. Laraib has won 3 weeks in a row. So I'm about to change up my strategy a bit, try to get this week under my belt and move on so I can get a better start to the season. But so far, Laraib, you're looking pretty good. How are you feeling going into this week, though?
Just as nervous as last week. A lot of these games can go either way. Of course, it's the NFL, so any given Sunday, anything can happen. And I know it's a long season ahead of us, Lewis. So this is just another opportunity for you to catch up on me, Lewis. But let's go ahead and get into the picks, Lewis. Excuse me, co-host. Let's move into the first one. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars staying in London, Lewis, but this time going to a different stadium, playing the Buffalo Bills.
Tottenham
Co-host.
Hotspurs.
Yeah, my Spurs.
You've been there before, haven't you?
Yes, I've actually met Harry Kane.
You met Harry
I
Kane.
met
That was
Harry Kane.
awesome.
Yes, that was actually really fun. But yes,
Harry Kane.
co-host, the Bills are minus 5.5. Technically at home in this one. So who are you feeling in this one?
This is an interesting game because about an hour before we started recording, I get a interesting tweet that Von Miller could be making his season debut in this game for this already stout defensive line of the Buffalo Bills. Initially, I was kind of liking the Jaguars in this contest, Rob, but if Von Miller plays in this game, and I think he will, even if it's just a little bit, I'm starting to like the Bills in this matchup. I just think one of the biggest weaknesses for the Jaguars this season, if their offensive line has been a little shaky so far, and their defense against the pass has not really been that great. So now you're playing against one of the most prolific pass attacks in the entire NFL and a stout front four. And we saw the problems they had in their week 2 matchup against Kansas City and against that front four. Well, this Buffalo defense is the best scoring defense in the league so far. We just saw them hold down that dynamic Miami offense to 20 points. And I was sleeping on this defensive line. You know, going into last week's game, I just didn't trust their front four guys. So without Von Miller, I just don't trust the big game potential from these guys. Well, now you get Von Miller back, plus these studs who have already been balling out so far this season. I like them a lot in this matchup. The Jaguars, I'll let you kind of get into it, but what can they do offensively to try to fix some of the woes they've had early on in the season?
Well, we thought that Trevor Lawrence could have had a bigger jump from last year to this year, especially how they ended that year off. But in this one, against this Bills defense, like you mentioned, how aggressive they are, how ball hockey they are. Of course, they have our guy Matt Milano over there in the middle of the field patrolling. So I think it's really going to be the play action game, Lewis, to try to get the defense moving to one side or the other side and try to get Trevor Lawrence out of the pocket a little bit and try to get him on the move. Of course, a run game for any team is going to be helpful. But I think in this one, Lewis, this is usually a trap game for a team like the Bills. Of course, we've seen the Jaguars give the Bills a loss last season. They've always given them a little bit of a headache. But I think in this one, the Bills get it done over there in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Give me the Bills 30-24, Lewis.
Yeah, I thought this would be one I could get on you. I was really high on the Jags early on in the week, but I think just the energy of Von coming back and what he gives that defense is so crucial. Plus, I just really like the Bills passing attack in this game. So if you don't, Gabe Davis, not Sam Laporta, we'll get into him later. But Dalton Kincaid, look for him to have a breakout game across the pond. We saw Kyle Pitts get his first touchdown across the pond when he was in the NFL. So maybe the rookie Kincaid can get his as well. I like the Bills here. I'm going to go Bills 31 to Jags 26. But Rob, let's go ahead and move back to the States where we have my awesome favorite team, the New Orleans Saints, who I love so much, traveling to New England.
Saints, man.
Traveling to New England to face the Patriots. Patriots are 1.5 or 1 point favorites in this game, almost a pick 'em. 39.5 point over under. They're expecting a low scoring game. Are you expecting the same result?
Yep, that's what I have written down right here, Lewis. 31 points, but I'm leaning towards the away team in this one. I got to ride with the Saints. I think they have the better quarterback, the better defense, maybe not the better head coach, but I think that the Saints, after a bad loss last week to a divisional rival, go on the road to New England and beat up on a Patriots team, Lewis, who doesn't have Matthew Judon for this game, who has Christian Gonzalez out for the season.
That
Now they
sucks.
do bring back JC Jackson from my Chargers, who's been awful over there. But we'll see what Bill can do with his guy back in New England. But I like the Saints, Lewis. I think that they can get it done on the road after a disappointing 2 games in a row. And I just don't trust this Pats offense at all. You bring back Matt Patricia, and it's just been pedestrian, really, what you've seen out of Mac Jones, getting benched for Bailey Zappi last week. And you see, Bill Belichick just slamming his hand on his forehead after that interception against the Cowboys. I really think this is an opportunity for the Saints offense to step up in this one, like you mentioned, with all the guys out for the Patriots defense. So give me the Saints on the road, Lewis.
You know, what's interesting about the Saints team, the top 3 leaders in passes defended this season across the entire NFL are Isaac Yiadom, Alontae Taylor, Marshawn Lattimore. 3 Saints players. Now, what does that tell you? The secondary is really good. The front 7 has issues. Now, the Patriots' offensive line has not been very good this year. This is a gettable offensive line, just like it was with the Titans, just like it was with the Panthers. Can the Saints get a pass rush in this game? I almost said we.
What does
in
that
this game,
mean?
and
What
that
does
will
that
be
mean?
key. That will be key in this ball game, Laraib, because with pressure, I really think this Patriots offense will not be able to do anything. They have not been able to rush the ball whatsoever this year, despite getting a guy like Ezekiel Elliott in free agency, another year of Ramondre Stevenson, kind of a stalwart in that offense. I can't even say it with a straight face. He's driving me crazy, Laraib. But besides that, my biggest question is the Saints offense. Even without Judon, the Patriots team at New England is never an easy task. So in this game, what can the Saints do? What can they do differently? Are they going to be able to run the ball? It's just so hard to predict against this Patriots defense. They're going to be scheming up. They're going to be figuring out ways to stop a very limited Saints offense, which has not scored more than 20 points all season long. So I think it's a continued struggle in this game, and in a low scoring, battle it out game. Like I said with the Ravens last week, I trust the head coach quarterback combination, and I don't like Mac Jones. I like Derek Carr better, but I sure as hell is like Bill Belichick a lot more than Dennis Allen. I'm going with the Patriots this week, Laura. I'm going to go Patriots 13-10. Ugly, ugly game, but it just continues me into my depression.
And I'll be picking the Saints, my man. Give me the Saints 17-14. They get it done on the road after Bill Belichick continues to be exposed as a fraud. But my man, let's move on to another game. We have the Houston Texans, my Texans, going to Atlanta to play the Falcons, and the Falcons -1.5 at home, Lewis. And I don't like that line at all. I really lean Texans in this one, Lewis. You talk about 2 completely polar opposite teams. The Falcons start 2-0, now they're 2-2, and the Texans 0-2, now they're also 2-2. I think these 2 teams trending in completely different directions. I like the way CJ Stroud has been playing, Lewis. And of course, Desmond Ridder getting yelled at by his teammates on the sideline over there in London was not a good look last week. And so I think the Texans continue to improve on the defense side of the ball. I know they don't have the biggest names over there, but still, and a defensive-minded head coach and D'Amico Ryans, they've been playing, to a good standard. And against the Falcons attack, of course, there's going to be a lot of rushing. So stack the box and force Ridder to throw. And I think CJ Stroud can stay perfect in this one and get a dub on the road.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is how effective can this Falcons offense be? We've seen the past 2 weeks, they have looked anemic offensively. Against the Jaguars last week, they couldn't get anything going. The passing game looked awful. Desmond Ridder looks legitimately like he's probably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. And a lot of us had these suspicions going into the season. We were saying that they have the pieces offensively. Can they put it together? And this Texans defense has looked very impressive so far. Like you mentioned, head coach D'Amico Ryans has immediately fixed that part of the team. That's all you ask for when you hire a head coach. Defensively, offensively, can you fix your side of the ball? Whatever your side of the ball is, can you make that right? He has so far. Their offense is better. But I just think the Falcons at home, I trust their running game.
You want to get burnt again this week. I mean, you literally talk about it in the picks. And, oh, man, the Texans team, man. And they keep on burning me every week. And now they're going to burn you again this week.
And I'm counting on it, Lara, because I think the only way to break a curse is by continuing to push yourself. And if I push myself, there's just not a lot of football reasons why I'm picking the Falcons over the Texans. Bijan's a monster. And the defense so far has been able to do a pretty good job against the run. Not that great against the pass, which isn't good against CJ Stroud. But, CJ Stroud, a rookie on the road, he's been pretty solid. He's been amazing so far. Let's call a buck a buck. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I just have more
But
faith in the home
but
team and in what
but
they are able to do, their offensive identity. If they're able to run the ball, the Texans have not been that great at defending the run. So Bijan, Tyler Algier, big game for them in store. I'm going with the Falcons in this game, 23-20.
we've seen Bijan and Algier have big games, and still this Falcons team continues to lose. And so I think the Texans go on the road, and CJ Stroud gets 3 wins in a row for this Texans team. Give me the Texans 24-21. All right, my dude, let's move on to another game that we have. We have the Ravens going to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers, Lewis. Now the Steelers are -4. And now the Ravens are -4. And now you were really high on this Steelers team coming into the season, Lewis. But now they've just been really disappointed with Matt Canada still as their offensive coordinator. It's really been that defense what's been carrying them in this so far this season, Lewis. But what do you think they can do on this one to beat their divisional opponent, the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, I mean, that's definitely a tough task because this offense has looked anemic. Won't even describe how bad they've looked this season. And now that you have a questionable Kenny Pickett entering this divisional game against a stout Baltimore defense, you have a huge task in front of you in this ball game. And a lot of it is just, it's not going to be on the offense, Laraib. What the offense needs to do in this game is not turn the ball over, play the clock, and play mistake-free football. If they can do that, they have a chance in this game, because I think this the Steelers defense was embarrassed last week. They were called out by multiple people. The coaches were more embarrassed with the defensive effort when you could argue the offense wasn't giving them any help. But, we saw head coach Coach Tomlin come out, and he was just destroying his defense in the pressers this week, saying their effort was bad. They need to be challenged more. And then against a divisional opponent at home, this is where you need to rise up to the challenge, Laraib. So I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. I think the Steelers defense comes out with a lot of energy and a lot of fire, but it'll be up to the Steelers offense to match that. And I just don't think they'll be able to, Laraib.
Well, Lewis, I think they will be able to. Now, even with a banged up knee for Kenny Pickett, and maybe if Mitch Trubisky even has to play in this game, I think the history is on my side for this one for sure. The Steelers have beaten the Ravens in the last 5 out of 6 games. Now they're at home. And like you mentioned, when that defense gets embarrassed like that last week, they really are going to step up this week, especially against a divisional opponent. And you talk about the implications for this game, Lewis. If the Ravens win, they have a clearly stronghold over the top of that division. And so if the Steelers want to keep this, close at all for the remainder of the season, I think this is one where they have to get it at home against the Ravens offense, which we know can sometimes be stymied, not just because they're playing against a great defense, but also just because the miscues that they have. They're still trying to adapt to a new offensive coordinator. I like the Steelers at home.
I gotta disagree with you, Laraib. I just like how this Ravens offense has looked. I think they tried going with the pass heavy thing, and Todd Monken has figured out, and I think Lamar has figured out as well. Now that he's got his extension, his guaranteed money, the offense revolves around Lamar and his legs. And the past few years, they've been trying to do the pass first thing, trying to make Lamar a pocket passer, and he's fine as a pocket passer, but he's so much more dynamic, and this offense is so much more dynamic when he's using his legs, getting out of the pocket, making things happen. And so far, the last 2 weeks, we've seen he's been doing just that all season long, and I think it continues into this game, gets out a lot of pressure, and it's going to be a low-scoring game, Laura, but I still think that. But I just trust Lamar to make the plays when necessary, John Harbaugh and that defense to make the plays when necessary in this game. If you have a defense in fantasy, start either one in this game. I think they both have big games, but I trust Lamar, so I'm going with the Ravens 16-10.
And I will be going with the Steelers 20-17. I think they find a way to get some defensive scores in this one and pull up the upset at home. All right, my brother, let's move on to another game for this Sunday slate. We have the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles going to Los Angeles to play the Rams. The Eagles -4.5 this week, Lewis. But they're undefeated, but so far those wins have not been easy at all. You talk about week 1 against the Patriots, where it came down to a last-second stop on defense. You talk about last week, you go into overtime against the Washington Commanders, and you really have to, eke and claw out these wins. And like you mentioned, it's been that secondary, which has been really lacking so far. And now you're facing Matthew Stafford, who's going to have Cooper Kupp back this week. We know Puka Nacua has been on an outstanding level, and Stafford, second in passing yards this season. I think this could potentially be somewhere where the Eagles trip up. And, I think this might be Sean McVay's best coaching season so far in his career. Now, I know they have a Super Bowl, Lewis, but Super Bowl win. But you just talk about all the pieces that they are missing, right? This is one of the teams that don't have as much depth on their roster. They're kind of missing, Jalen Ramsey's gone, Bobby Wagner's gone. It's really just up to Aaron Donald and Witherspoon on the cornerback side. And so out of a coaching perspective, I think this is Sean McVay's best season so far. But this Eagles team, they've had the struggles on the offensive side of the ball, but I think they're going into Los Angeles with a mindset of, this is going to be difficult for us, but we still come out with a win against the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize Cooper Kupp. I knew that he was taken off of IR and he was opened up to the 21-day practice window, but I didn't realize that he might actually play this weekend. So that is a huge addition, but it's also maybe a chemistry problem because we've seen Puka kind of in that Cooper Kupp role, looking super effective in it. Now, does he move to a different position? Does Cooper Kupp regain his original position, or does Cooper move to the outside? We'll see how they do it. Sean McVay is an offensive genius. I wouldn't put anything past him. As it pertains to this game, I think this is going to be a close game, Laraib. The Eagles have not been that great as a road favorite in the past year and a half because, you look at some of the games they played, and including last year, they've only covered in 2 games on the road and they were good last year and, getting points. So I think the Rams are able to cover and make this thing close, but I just don't trust the lines for both teams. Aaron Donald has been playing surprisingly a very great season. We saw last year he was dealing with some injuries. He wasn't really, he wasn't into it after the Super Bowl, a little bit of a hangover, but he's been electric this year. Most pressures from a defensive tackle all season. He has been a monster for the Rams defensive line, but he's not getting a lot of help, Laraib. And against Jason Kelce and that interior of that Eagles offensive line, who's allowed 0 sacks all season from the interior, I think they do a good job of stymieing Aaron Donald in this game. And I think, the Eagles are able to eat up this Rams secondary, which you mentioned has some pretty decent players. They found some stars in the back end of the draft, but I just think A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith are too much to handle for these guys, and Eagles win a high-scoring game on the road. I'm going to go Eagles 31 to Rams 28.
Yeah, great points from you, co-host. But I also agree with you that the Eagles will win 27-24. It's going to be a lot closer than people might expect from this Rams team, which is 1-3, but 2-2, but which having a sneaky good season, especially from that coaching staff. So give me the Eagles in a close one, but they pull out the win on the road.
All right, Laraib, let's go ahead and move on to our next game in the 3:00 slot. We have a lot of fun games in the 3:00 slot this week, Laraib. I won't be having to get on Xbox at 4:00 because the games suck. This is how I like the NFL schedule. You have 6 noon games, 4 3:00 games, and of course your standalone primetime games. That's perfect. I have good football to watch all day long, good games spread out. Minor tangent there, but I'm just happy that this is what I want as an NFL fan. And that's what everyone wants. I know that's what you want as well. We don't want 3 crappy West Coast teams getting smothered like we did last week. But let's go ahead and move on to one of the 3:00 games. We have the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to Minnesota to face the Minnesota Vikings. Kansas City favored by 3.5 points on the road, Laraib. Vikings got their first win of the season last week against the Panthers. Still didn't look that good. A lot of backbreaking mistakes. That's been a theme of their entire season so far. We saw the pick sticks in the red zone from Kirk Cousins. Is there any chance that they can pull off the upset at home?
I don't think so, man. I mean, going against this Chiefs offense now, I did mention on our Tuesday episode that I really don't like the direction that this offense is going. Only over 23 points scored in only 1 game so far
The
this
Chiefs
season.
offense?
Yeah, only 23 points scored, more than 23 points scored once this season. Of course, they had a huge explosion against the Bears, and I think they overcome that once again in this one against the Vikings defense, Lewis, which is just absolutely horrendous. I mean, like you mentioned against last week, that game against the 0-3 Panthers, now 0-4, did not come easy, and it came off of mistakes from the offense. It came from mistakes on the defense. And it's just been a difficult season for the Vikings so far this season. I don't think it gets any easier, even when you're at home against Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes in a dome. I think this is one where the offense just goes nuclear and they get a win on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that this is a get right game. We saw a lot of the question marks about Patrick Mahomes, the interceptions, the missed calls from the Jets game. It was very ugly. Travis Kelce really didn't have that great of a game. I think it flips in this game. I think they start to get back into a rhythm, and I really like this matchup. Like you mentioned, just this Viking secondary has been awful all season. They were awful all last season, and what did they do to, try to replace it? They got rid of people and got younger, which I respect. I think you got to get new guys in, younger guys in to try to fix it. But these guys really aren't panning out for this Vikings team so far. Lewis Cine, the safety, hasn't really lived up to the billing of that first round pick so far. And against this Chiefs team, I think this is a get right game for this Chiefs offense. Tough matchup against the Jets last week. And the big thing is this defense has been playing very well so far. Third in the league in scoring defense. And I think they continue that against the Vikings. Trent McDuffie been very quietly an all-pro level corner this season. He has been playing amazing football. Garrett Wilson, obviously, is Zach Wilson throwing him the ball. Really didn't do that much against Trent McDuffie in this Chiefs secondary. I think he does a decent job of holding Justin Jefferson. There's only so much you can do with Justin Jefferson. But I think he does a decent job slowing things down, making it hard on Kirk Cousins. Chiefs win this game on the road. I'm going Chiefs 30, Vikings 20.
Yeah, Trent McDuffie just has a different aura about him, Lewis.
Yeah.
And so give me the Chiefs as well, 31-27. I think the Vikings get a late touchdown to make it look a lot closer than it actually is. But Broseph, let's move on to another one. Sunday Night Football, the Cowboys at Niners. Now, this is going to be an amazing Sunday Night Football game. Another rematch, another year. The 49ers -4, Lewis. And now you were talking up this Cowboys team on our Tuesday pod. What can they do in this one to give Brock Purdy his first regular season loss?
They can give Brock Purdy, how about a little bit of adversity in his NFL career? Brock Purdy and his NFL career has only trailed in games he's played in the fourth quarter for 2 minutes. Out of all the starts he's played, he's only trailed for 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. I can't remember exactly what game that was, but I saw that stat today. So how about some adversity for this 49ers offense? They can't always be this well-oiled of a machine. And against this Cowboys defense, they will face adversity. I don't really love their right tackle out. Obviously Trent Williams is Trent Williams, but they can definitely get pressure on this 49ers team. The big question is, will they be able to stop the run? Christian McCaffrey has been a beast all season long, but the Cowboys, defensive front has allowed the fewest. I know this isn't that, take this stat with a grain of salt. The fewest fantasy points to running backs all season long. It's production. All right. It measures production. So take that as you will. So let's see what Christian McCaffrey has. Obviously, this 49ers rushing attack is different from anything the Cowboys have faced all season, but the big pressure is on this Cowboys offense. They need revenge after being humiliated in the playoffs last season. And the last memory Cowboys fans had was Ezekiel Elliott throwing the ball between his legs, and it looked ugly. This is different. This is, now, new play caller. I'm not that big of a fan of this play caller. The head coach, Mike McCarthy. But, it's different. It's a new experience. It's in the regular season. I think if there's a time for the Cowboys to get their revenge and look like a great team and a juggernaut, it's now, because in the playoffs, they'll disappoint you. But as it stands right now, I think the Cowboys go on the road, get a huge win, get all of Dallas buzzing. And this is going to be the game of the week, Laraib.
I have to disagree with you, Lewis. Last
Not
time these
game
two
of the
teams... this is obviously in the week, but I have to disagree with you with the Cowboys. Last time we saw these two teams match up in January, we saw Dak Prescott throw 2 interceptions against his 49ers defense. And I think in this one, he's going to have pressure in his face all game. And, he's had this season, I'm not going to lead the league in interceptions this season. That's been his goal so far. And so even if he doesn't try to force balls anywhere where they're not supposed to go and he doesn't throw any interceptions, I don't think that this Cowboys offense will be able to put up anything against this Niners front, which we know is outstanding. Even on the back half in the secondary, they've just been playing at a different level than anybody else in the NFL. And like you mentioned, Christian McCaffrey, no matter how stout this Cowboys front seven is, I think he's going to get his. And Brock Purdy, like we mentioned, in that first playoff game of his, they kind of, kept it real simple for him, just like Kyle Shanahan likes to do. But in this one, I think, as it's progressed, I think they open things up some more, let him cook a little bit in this one against the Cowboys defense, and kind of flex their muscles. We know the 49ers are going to pull out the boombox for this one. Deebo Samuel, 19 gang, look for a masterclass out of him. And so give me the 49ers in a field goal game, 27-24 at home.
Yeah, the thing that concerns me and that 49ers defense really hasn't been tested all season long. The only real offense that they've played was the Rams, and there's an obvious talent mismatch, but the Rams still put up 23 points, going at home, but really it was, 49ers fans in Los Angeles. So I think this is the best offense that they played all season, and they've never really been. And I've had this problem with the San Francisco defense for a while. Their red zone defense is not that sharp. I think they lose assignments. They're kind of disorganized. And good thing is the Cowboys red zone offense has also been kind of disorganized. So we'll see which one can figure it out. This game is going to be won by touchdowns, not field goals. And I think the Cowboys will score the touchdowns when necessary. Big game coming up for Mr. CeeDee Lamb this week. I'm calling it right here. I need it too, CD. If it wouldn't hurt, wouldn't hurt your boy. But I have Dallas getting the huge upset. Sunday Night Football. They look like they're the best team in the NFL after dethroning the 49ers, who beat them last year. And they make their stamp on this 2023 NFL season until they lose in the divisional round. But, and my score is going to be 26-20 in this game. But, Laraib, let's go ahead. Yeah, it's good. It's going to be closer than that. It's going to be closer than that. Late field goal by the Cowboys. But let's go ahead and move on, Laraib, to our final game of the week, at least the ones that we're going to highlight. We have Monday Night Football. The Green Bay Packers traveling to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. Green Bay only favored by 1 point here. Or no, excuse me. The Raiders are favored by 1 point on the road. I saw earlier it said Green Bay, but no, the Raiders are favored by 1 point here. What do you see in this matchup, Laraib?
Yeah, bro, Tato Chip. I think the Packers have an extended week in this one after that embarrassing loss to the Lions last week. Now they're facing a Raiders team who's been discombobulated all season long. Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, is going to have his occasional injury that makes him miss a few games, but I think he's back for this one. And so I like the Packers. I think their rushing attack, if they can get that going, they completely had to move out of that, that portion of their offense against the Lions when you go down huge like that. But in this one, against the Raiders defense, which we know can be got, I think they run the ball with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon and get out of this one scot-free against a Raiders team, which has been overwhelming, especially on the defensive side of the ball, Lewis, when you let go of Chandler Jones after his underwhelming, after his little outburst. And, of course, you put it all on Max Crosby to kind of carry you, and it's just been difficult for him to do it by himself. And so I think this Packers offensive line just shifts that Raiders defensive line all across the field. And another great game from Aaron Jones. We know he likes to put up those huge numbers against bad defenses, so look for a big game out of him in this one.
Yeah, Raiders have been one of the worst rushing defenses in the entire NFL this year. We saw Najee Harris look like an NFL running back against them last week, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me. And I think, the strength of what this Matt LaFleur centered offense is their running game. Look for Aaron Jones to have a bounce back week after only having 19, could have had 25, after only having 19 rushing yards. Long break for them going from Thursday to Monday. Now we saw what that meant for the Giants. They didn't look too, great against the Seahawks, but I think the Packers team is well coached. Unlike this Raiders team, I think the Packers defense has a huge game in this one after being embarrassed at home. This Raiders offense, is Garoppolo playing in this one? Do we know about that, Laraib?
I can look that up for you while you're.
Yeah. So, even if Garoppolo plays, I think that he, with O'Connell, excuse me, it didn't look like that much different of an offense, and their offensive line really struggled. So Rashawn Gary, these Packers defenders are going to have a huge game against whoever the quarterback is, because it's not like either of them are great at eluding the rush regardless. So I have the Packers winning a statement game against the Raiders on Monday. It's going to be a fun game, though. I think you never really see these teams play. It's in Las Vegas. It's going to be fun. But the Packers get a statement win, 26-13.
Jimmy Garoppolo is still listed as questionable, but
Okay.
it was not that serious of an injury, and so I think a game which they really needed, he probably will likely plays. But I will still go with the Packers, just like you, Lewis. Give me the Packers 27-20. A late touchdown puts them up and puts the Raiders to bed.
Yep. So that's going to be the end of our highlighted games of the week. Now, this is a good time to mention that we have our first batch of bye weeks. So we have 4 teams on bye: the Cleveland Browns, the Los Angeles Chargers, your Seattle Seahawks, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers all not playing this week. Early bye weeks, never really fun. But less games for us to talk about. So let's rip through the rest of these games. We have the Carolina Panthers traveling to Detroit, coming off that Thursday night football game. Detroit is favored by 10 points against the 0-4 Panthers. Do they get another win?
I do think they get another win, Lewis. Now, if you think back to last year where the Lions got embarrassed in this one, and also it was one of those key games at the end of their season that really knocked them out of the playoffs, Lewis. And so I think the Lions are coming for blood in this one. Give me the Lions 31-17 as they beat up on this Panthers team with a young QB.
Yeah, and not only is this Lions team different, but the Panthers team last year at the end of the year last year was a power running, Steve Wilks, really gritty team. And so far this year, they have not been able to run the ball that effectively, and that's really hurt them in a lot of these games. So I do like the Lions in this spot. I think they dominate. I'm going Lions 33, Panthers 17. Next game up, Laraib, we have the Tennessee Titans traveling to Indiana. Tennessee favored by 2.5 on the road. Who you got?
I have to agree with that line, Lewis. I like Tennessee. 5 straight games against the Colts. Now Anthony Richardson in at quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, but I still think we saw some greatness out of the Titans last week. And Mike Vrabel is still showing that he is one of the better coaches in the NFL. And now facing against a Colts team on the road, which he's dominated so far in his career, I think the Titans get it done in a close one, 24-21.
This Titans offense has been a completely different team at home versus on the road this season, averaging only 8 points a game at home versus 27 at home, or 8 points on the road, excuse me. So what Titans offense are we getting, on the road now against a Colts defense that has been surprisingly frisky so far this season? I like the Colts in this spot at home, Laraib. I think they lost a really tough game at home. They've been competitive in all their games this season. And if we get the typical Ryan Tannehill experience in this ball game, I think the Colts win. This is a new team. Shane Steichen has been very sharp so far as an offensive play caller. And I think with Anthony Richardson, the sky's the limit for this offense, really. I like the weapons on the outside. And Jonathan Taylor is making his season debut this week. So that'll be huge for their, dual threat game with Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson. That RPO is going to be insane. I like the Colts in this matchup. I'm going Colts 20 to Titans 17. Let's move on now, Laraib, to the New York Football not-so-Giants traveling to the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins favored by 12 points at home. Any hope here for the Giants?
None whatsoever. I think we can expect another huge offensive showing from the Dolphins offense after being slowed down by the Bills last week. I mean, give me the Fins 34-17.
Yep, and I'm going bigger than that, Laraib. I'm going Fins 38-10 in this ball game. Let's move on now to a 3:00 game. We have the Cincinnati Bengals on the road facing the Cardinals. Cincinnati only favored by 3 here. Who you got?
I have to pick the Bengals in this one, Lewis. Now, this Bengals team is fighting for their lives in this one. Meanwhile, the Cardinals may be trying to slow things down a little bit after being in third place for Caleb Williams after the Bears control picks 1 and 2. So this Cardinals team has been frisky, but I think they kind of let their foot up off the gas in this one. So give me the Bengals in a must-win game, 27-24.
And I disagree, Laraib. I think who has been the better team in 2023? It's the Arizona Cardinals, no doubt about it. I think they've had a better defense. I think their offense has been a ton better. And I think Josh Dobbs has been playing better football than Joe Burrow this football season. No turnovers for Dobbs. He's been, really steady as a game manager. and they've been a better team. So Cincinnati is getting these points, acting like they're the Cincinnati of old. What is there to help me suggest that the Bengals are going to win this game? Their defense didn't look that sharp last week, and we thought this was a huge spot for them, and they got rolled over by Tennessee. So I am picking I wish this could be my upset, but I'm so strong in my conviction here. I'm picking the Cardinals in this one, Rob. I'm going Cardinals 20 to Bengals 13.
Well, it's always picks like that is why you've been losing so far this season. So continue to make them and continue to pick against my Texans.
Can't wait.
But for our final game that we did not talk about, the New York Jets, Lewis, going to Denver to play the Broncos. Broncos minus 2.5. And I'm leaning the other way in this one, personally. I think this statistically, Lewis, this Broncos defense has been the worst in the NFL this season. I think this Jets team, if they have any hope, they're going to build off some of the success of Zach Wilson's on Sunday Night Football. And so I think they go to Denver and they pull out the upset over there in Mile High on the backs of that defense. Give me the Jets 24-23.
See, I feel like this is such a square pick because my initial reaction is, yes, I agree. I like the Jets. They had the last time we saw them standalone game, we were able to watch them. They looked pretty good against the reigning defending champs. So they should theoretically, win against this awful Denver team. But this Denver team has been pretty good offensively. Now, this Jets defense looked a little bit echelon better, but don't discount the Denver offense in this game. And we'll see what happens on the other side of the ball. Zach Wilson, he played pretty good. Maybe we can ride with him. Going to Denver to face a really bad defense, how do you respond? I'm picking the Jets, but if I didn't already pick the Cardinals, I might have flipped my opinion on this one. So I'm sticking with the Jets. I think they win a decently scoring game. I'm going Jets 20 to Broncos 17. But Laraib, that'll do it for our picks for the week. However, we still have our locks, upsets, and best bets of the week. Laraib, what is your lock of the week?
My lock of the week has to be the Cincinnati Bengals. If they have any shot this season, it has to be against the Cardinals team who wants to lose, Lewis, who wants to draft Caleb Williams. Give me the Bengals in a must-win in Arizona.
And my lock is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. I just think whenever you can get the Chiefs at a lock, I think it's a good, spot to take them. They really never mess around with their food. This Vikings team has not been good all season. And if you give the Chiefs a ton of red zone opportunities and give them more possessions, they will make the most out of it. I like the Chiefs as my lock. And for my upset of the week, it's the Dallas Cowboys as 4-point underdogs. Look, they're the best team that fits this criteria. It's an easy pick for me. The Cowboys have been electric this season. One dud on their schedule. I think this is the game they've been circling on their schedules all off season. They come into this game with fire in their gut, and they win.
I have to disagree. And for my upset, I'm going with the Steelers. 5 out of the last 6 against the Ravens, they've won them. Despite the quarterback troubles over there, I think the defense comes out, has a major showing. TJ Watt, expect him for a strip sack fumble touchdown in this one. Give me the Steelers at home against the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, and what is your best bet of the week, Laraib?
My best bet has to be my Texans at plus 1.5 going into Atlanta. Now, I had the similar bet earlier this season with the Packers. I was confident that they could have been. They were at -1, and the line shifted to plus 1.5 against the Falcons, and that ended up hitting for me. And so, even in this one, I think the Texans is going to be a close game, and I really like them to win. And still getting them at plus 1.5, I think is great value.
And what's crazy, Laraib, is my best bet was the Packers -1 point. And now I'm looking at the Raiders -1 point. So I love this even more as my best bet of the week. I just think the Packers are by far the better team. Obviously Jordan Love hasn't looked that great this season, but I think all other sides of the ball will be clicking on all cylinders with the time off to prepare for a bad Raiders team. I love the value here. I'm going with the Packers in this spot, Laraib.
That's a good one, Lewis. But I think that will wrap it up for this week's episode. If you want to see our Thursday night football, Bears versus Commanders thoughts and our picks for that, that'll be on our Tuesday episode. But besides that, Lewis, anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Nope, that's gonna do it, Laraib.
All right, so First and Goal podcast signing off.
Peace.